So I just finished my first multi-day silent meditation retreat, and I thought some people might be interested in this if you're considering doing a retreat or you're just curious about what the experience is like. I've been meditating for at least 10 years, definitely more than that, but it's been on and off the whole time. There have been times where I've been really consistent and others. Anyway, that's just a little bit about me and what I brought to this retreat. In this video, I want to cover a couple of different areas that I think people might be interested in. I'm going to start with just explaining a little bit about the retreat itself and the organization that hosted it. Then I'll talk about the type of meditation we did and the schedule that we followed. I'll talk about noble silence, which the retreat was held in, so we didn't talk the whole time, but there's some other things that noble silence encompasses that might be interesting to people and was new to me. I didn't really know what noble silence was before this retreat. I want to talk about the sorts of subjective mental changes that I noticed happen in myself through the course of meditating, for basically 8 hours a day for 3, 4, 5 days straight. And yeah, just like what I found meaningful in this, and maybe advice for people who might be considering doing this in the future. So to begin with, the retreat that I did was organized by a nonprofit called Dharma Gates, and it was hosted in West Virginia at this really pretty place called the Claymont Retreat Center. Dharma Gates meditation retreats are dana based, and dana is like the Buddhist word for generosity or maybe donation, but basically dana is like a generous donation that you give. So I put $100 down for my deposit to secure my spot in the retreat, but what's crazy about how Dharma Gates works is that like you can essentially do this retreat for free. So if you don't have, if you don't have money to pay for like an expensive, I don't know, $1,000, I don't know even what they cost, but I know that multi-day retreats can get pretty expensive. If you don't have the money to afford that sort of thing, they're providing this incredibly accessible option, which is awesome. And so, yeah, it was a dana-based retreat. It was a young adult retreat also, so anyone between 18 and 35 could apply to participate. And I'm not sure what else to say except that I really loved it. It was great. The food was really good. That was one really cool thing that I didn't really think about ahead of time. But it's really nice to not have to worry about cooking for 3, 4, 5 days straight. I keep saying 3, 4, 5 because there were 3 full days, and the start and end day were both basically half days. But yeah, the food was really good. It was all vegan. I especially loved the oatmeal that we had every morning that had big cinnamon sticks in it, and some toasted pecans and brown sugar on the side. You could add, whatever you wanted, and it was all super tasty. So yeah, that was a little bit about the retreat. The type of meditation that we did, we were doing Zen meditation, or shamatha meditation, which is basically just, focusing on a single object, and the retreat was focused around the body. So, you can do shamatha meditation that's focused on sounds or sights, and I don't think that was really off limits. There's a certain flexibility, like when you're meditating, to just decide what you want to do, because people around you don't necessarily know what you're focusing on. But The encouragement, I think, was to focus on the body. So, you know, it could be the sensation of your butt and legs making contact with the cushion that you're sitting under, or that you're sitting on top of, or to focus on your breath. I did a combination of basically those two mostly. And I just say this to distinguish between shamatha or samatha and vipassana meditation. I think those would probably be the two different types of meditation styles that you might see most commonly for different retreats. So just feels worth mentioning that, you know, if someone watching this video decides to do a retreat, it's worth looking into what style of meditation you might be doing, because there's lots. Yeah, so next I was going to talk about Noble Silence, which was the format or the sort of rule for the entire retreat. It wasn't super harshly enforced, which I appreciated, but there was, you know, definitely a strong recommendation to try to adhere to this as much as possible. They also recommended handing in your phones at the beginning of the retreat so that you weren't, you know, just mindlessly scrolling and stuff at night, and really like sticking with the intention of trying to be present and practice, you know, like concentration for the entire 5 days or 4.5 days. What I didn't realize about Noble Silence before the retreat is that not only does it contain speaking, so you're not supposed to talk except, you know, during Q&As after the teacher Jogan gave a Dharma talk, or if you did a one-on-one session talking to him to get advice or guidance about something going on in your meditation. Outside of a few specific circumstances, you weren't supposed to talk, but it went beyond that, that it's also nonverbal communication. So making eye contact, making like faces or something at someone, just kind of that sort of nonverbal communication, as well as touching. You weren't supposed to touch anyone, and they kind of explained that these sorts of things can really pull someone out of the sort of focus and concentration that people are working on developing during the course of the retreat. And at the beginning, this kind of chafed me when they explained this actually on the first night, and I was like, really? Like, you can't make eye contact with people? I thought it sounded a little bit inhuman, impersonal, kind of like overly, I don't know, like almost puritanical. But actually, once we got into the retreat, it made sense to me, and I really appreciated it and kind of leaned into like keeping my eyes to myself and just focusing on my kind of inner world and conscious experience, and not getting wrapped up in, you know, having a cute little like smile with someone who noticed the same thing that was like funny or whatever. That happens naturally and accidentally, and that's fine. But the more I got into it, the more I was like, yeah, I'm not here to like have a meet cute with some cute girl. Like, I really just want to meditate. And I feel like probably lots of other people felt similarly, because it's a really valuable experience. And so the schedule was very packed. I'm just gonna grab it from right here so that I can show you. I'll just move through it fairly quickly. So you can see, hopefully you can see if the camera is auto-focusing. We had, you know, check-ins on Wednesday when we arrived. Then we had this daily schedule for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then Sunday was a half day where, you know, we meditated a bit and then had some closing activities, and people left around 1, 2 in the afternoon. But for the full days that we did, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the schedule looked like this. We woke up at 6 a.m. every morning. Someone would walk around ringing a cowbell. That was like one of the retreat managers' job, and there were like 3, maybe 4 retreat managers. And yeah, there were 4. They would ring that, and then a half hour later, you would have like a half hour between that bell and the first meditation session, which would last an hour from 6:30 to 7:30. So mostly after the bell went off, I would just, get dressed, go pee, and I think lots of people wouldn't brush their teeth until later because they just like roll out of bed. They, brush their teeth when we had a break later in the morning. But I found the time to brush my teeth and wash my face, which was nice. But that was about it. And then I'd just go, straight to the meditation hall, maybe get a cup of tea to start waking up. And we'd meditate from 6:30 to 7:30. Then we'd have breakfast for 45 minutes. Then after breakfast, there would be a little like break period just to, go and do whatever you need to do. Bathroom time. And then about like 9 to 10, another group practice period. That was actually 8:45 to 10:15, so more like an hour and a half. Then tea for a half hour, then more meditation, then lunch from 12:30 to 1:30, then a personal practice and rest period, which I just used to nap because I love naps, and this is a pretty grueling, intense schedule. And it was nice to have that sort of refresher to come back to afternoon meditation not feeling totally depleted. We had an hour for that, for the rest period, so that was 1:30 to 2:30. Then 2:30 to 3:30, we'd do some movement-based meditation, so could be like mindful walking, or some other kind of mindful movement. So the teacher Jogan gave us a number of prompts, such as sort of like contracting into yourself and then expanding, and lots of these prompts you could do with your eyes open or closed, and I found doing them with your eyes closed could really help you, or help me at least, really feel into my body and really be present with the activity. But yeah, different sorts of movement-based activities. Then 3:30 to 5:15, the teacher Jogan would give a Dharma talk, and leftover time would go to Q&A and then more meditation practice if there was time beyond the Q&A. Then we had a half hour around 5 for an outdoor walking meditation, which is nice, just get outdoors. The retreat center where we were in West Virginia was this really kind of pretty sort of rural utopia feeling thing. There was like a farm next door with some horses on it, and it was a very kind of secluded, grassy, quiet place. So really nice to just walk out and take, a stroll while the sun is starting to go down. Then around 6, we'd have dinner. Then we'd do a little tea time after dinner. Then more group practice from 7 to 9. And then at 9 p.m. on the schedule, it says lights out. But that basically just meant scheduled activities were over, and for me, I just treated this as I have 1 hour to get ready to go to bed so that I can sleep from 10 to 6 in the morning and get 8 hours of sleep so that I can have energy to do this again the next day. So that would mean brushing my teeth, going to the bathroom, taking a shower, and I had a little cheat code with me, which was I brought a massage gun, which was very nice to use before bed, since sitting for hours on end during the day gets your muscles a bit stiff and uncomfortable. So that was, I think, a pretty good idea. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to run through the schedule because even though that's just like reading a list to you, I feel like it's interesting just to see how packed this sort of experience is. I think that helps you understand the level of commitment that you kind of have to be willing or ready to give when you're doing something like this. It's like you don't really do anything else except be mindful or actively meditate for basically all day until you're going to sleep. And I didn't mention this before, but you know, when we were eating breakfast, lunch, or dinner, we were also in silence. Oftentimes the retreat managers would give us a prompt for eating, something like, you know, try to eat more slowly than you usually do, and just like pay more attention to the texture of food in your mouth. Or another prompt that I really liked was to, after each bite, take your fork or spoon and put it down and like notice and kind of savor the bite, rather than holding your fork and like going for the next bite before you're even done with the first one. So yeah, it was like kind of wall-to-wall mindfulness. So that was the schedule. And I also wanted to talk about the mental changes that I noticed in myself. And I think I should start by saying that going into this, I kind of felt like I had forgotten how to meditate. That was partly what motivated me to sign up for this, was feeling like I really wanted to deepen my practice and get back more in touch with my ability to concentrate, which I felt like I had kind of lost. I definitely felt like I was able to do this sort of meditation effectively during college, but between, you know, the last 10 years of work and life, travel, just lots of different things going on, I felt like, and also probably some amount of like digital addiction and, you know, just too much time on the smartphone, I felt like I'd kind of lost the capacity for deep concentration to a certain degree. So, like when I would meditate, I would kind of feel like I was just relaxing, and it was almost like doing breath work. Felt like it stopped at that stage where it was like I was kind of consciously controlling my breath and like trying to slow down and help my body relax. But I wasn't developing this kind of like razor sharp ability to focus, which is what we were basically doing in this retreat, which was challenging and fun. I had a talk with the teacher after the first day when I felt like I was still stuck in that inability to focus, where I basically said like, yeah, I'm like focusing on the sensation of my butt, you know, touching my cushion, and I kind of like, you know, I'm present with that. And then I'm looking around the room and being like, is something else gonna happen? And he kind of heard that and he was like, yeah, well, that's wanting. You want something more. Which is like clinging. That's, you know, you're not, I don't really know how to describe that as well, but, you know, clinging is a thing in Buddhism. And he basically was just like, yeah, if you're looking around, you're not meditating. So try, like, again, try with more effort and really try to stick with the object of meditation. And he kind of reminded me that you can get to a kind of blissful state with this sort of concentration. So I think that was also really good. He gave me kind of a carrot to motivate me to try harder because I was just finding it so boring. But he kind of just reminded me and helped confirm to me with the authority of someone like him who's lived at a monastery for like 15 or 16 years. He reminded me of kind of what I knew, but I was just not fully committing to, and maybe I'd lost belief that it was possible to get to that sort of state of higher level of attention or presence and concentration. So that was my kind of transformative moment, and after that conversation I did find my meditation really starting to deepen more and able to stick with the breath for much longer and eventually getting to a place of genuinely finding it kind of a fun challenge and enjoyable to keep trying to stay with the object of meditation, and also noticing the amount of intrusive thoughts that came through, which were probably a majority of them were music, like songs would just appear in my head, like the song Sarah by Fleetwood Mac, or I remember a Tenacious D song came up in my head where Jack Black is singing about how he's gonna kick your ass, or just random stuff kept popping up, and it was just interesting to be like, wow, yeah, my mind really doesn't want me to be bored, or it really doesn't want to like just stick with this simple thing. It was coming up with any possible reason to avoid that. So coming out of this, I just felt like emotionally kind of recharged, felt like I was able to feel more. There's lots of people during the experience, during the retreat, who, you know, had some kind of intense reaction. There were some tears shed, but like good tears. People were kind of like, feel like shedding layers of like numbness and sort of like emotional barriers or blocks that, you know, you kind of acquire in the course of adult life. And I definitely felt, as I mentioned before, my focus getting better, slowing down and having better control over my impulses. Since I've been back, I basically haven't watched any YouTube videos, I haven't listened to music, I haven't watched TV. I haven't felt the impulse to do these things. I have allowed myself to play piano a bit, which is really fun, and like just feels a little bit more intense now, or just like I'm more sunk into it. But yeah, those are some of the mental changes that I've noticed. So, advice for anyone considering doing something like this, I would say if you have a, you know, basic familiarity with meditation, if you've been meditating with some degree of consistency for about a year, I think you might be ready for something like this. It definitely depends on your desire for and capacity for challenge, because it's not an easy thing, but there's plenty of times that people do things that aren't easy because they have the motivation to. So I think if you have the motivation, if you're interested and you're willing to have it maybe be tough for a couple days, I would say go for it. It really feels like one of the most transformative experiences I've had in my life. And it's crazy to me that it was so accessible that I was able to do it without worrying about spending a ton of money on it. I do want to go and send some dana to both the teacher and the organization, Dharma Gates, now. But I think it's amazing that it's dana based, and that, like, you know, you don't have to worry about having to pay more than you feel comfortable with. Anyway, yeah, if you have no meditation background, if you haven't been meditating for a good while, I think this might be a little too much, but there's lots of places. I think there should be opportunities if you look around for doing day-long retreats, and I've done a couple of those in the lead up to this one that kind of got me mentally prepared and gave me a little bit of insight into what, you know, doing this for multiple days might feel like. So yeah, you might start with like a day long and then see if you like that, and if you want something that goes a little bit further and deeper than that. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.